The Nigerian Economic Summit Group (NESG) has stressed the need for dialogue as tool to tackle economic and political challenges in the country. The chairman of the group, Mr. Aswe Ighodalo, gave the advice in his address at the one-day National Economic Dialogue titled Critical Challenges Confronting the Nigerian Economy in Abuja. According to him, dialogue is imperative for any nation to realize its political and economic goals.
It was important for us to start a conversation around how do we get the right kind of leadership going into 2023. The primaries are in the next 3 weeks. That's the most important process, because if the parties choose incompetent candidates for us, then we're saddled with a fait accompli when we go to the elections in February 2023. So it was important for us to start this conversation and get each Nigerian talking to the political parties as best as they can, and each of us talking to the delegates. The delegates are not spirits, they're from amongst us. So we need to be able to convince and converse with the delegates that we require them, as they step out to vote the candidate for their party, to vote a person they are quite clear in their minds has the pedigree, has the capacity, what has the person done before, what is the person's outlook, what is the person's, how do we perceive the person's love of country and love of the people of the country. Is the person able to take us to the next level? What's the person's work ethic like? What has the person achieved in their past? What has the person said? So it's key as the delegates go into primary and selection of their candidates that they're thinking about Nigeria. How do we move Nigeria forward?
Mr. Samson Itodo, Executive Director of Yaga Africa, advised a dialogue focused on ways to ensure better future for the country could boost national growth.
Think about the future and what the consequence of the choice that they make. That it should be about leaders and candidates, who have the requisite competence, character, and capacity to hold that office. Part of this conversation is talk to the captains of industries. Don't fund bad leaders, don't fund unqualified candidates, and don't fund parties that are determined to rig the process just to advance their own interests and not advance the public good.
Dr. Hussaini Abdul, Country Director, CARE International, explained that dialogue on issues about improvement of education standards could help a country to achieve set goals.
Education is a fundamental game changer because of the choices the woman makes in her marital life. When she marries, how she go for antenatal, how many children she actually wants to have, and all those things are defined by education. So this is how important education is. And this is the message we need to spread. Building our skills, which can be strongly productivity related. The second one is to strengthen our life choices. So, but many times our conversation on education appears a bit more transactional. I go to school, I want to get a good job and all that. But the whole idea around the life choices does not come up very strongly.
Ms. Tosin Fanirodada, Managing Director, CEO Endeavor Nigeria, commended engagement by young people in technical conversations to have contributed immensely in area of job creation and poverty reduction.
MSMEs provide jobs, tech companies provide jobs, wealth, and the multiplier effect of creating more scalable companies. And if we're talking about inclusion, wealth creation, improving lives, transforming the economy, and overall prosperity, small businesses and scale-ups, especially tech-enabled companies, can help us achieve this. We are currently working to solve challenges in payments, logistics, commerce, digitizing the supply chain for pharmacies, hospitals, and also digitizing the informal sector.
For his part, Mr. Ari Eisen, resident representative of IMF in Nigeria, urged the federal government to deepen with relevant development partners to enjoy financial support when needed.
The right economic policies should be developed, and the IMF will be able to help and support capacity building and policy advice for our member countries to be able to have eventual programs with us.
Professor Osita Ogbo, Professor of Economics, Director, Institute for Development Studies, University of Nigeria, called for adequate investment in the education sector to promote knowledge sharing.
We need to get serious about education. You can't say students should not pay and then you can't pay. You can't say we don't have money and then you're establishing more universities. We have the responsibility of producing the PhDs that are going to teach in those universities. And we know how tedious, how difficult it is to produce those people. So, resolution of ASU demands a refocusing of our education.
Meanwhile, Dr. Olisa Agbakoba, senior partner, Olisa Agbakoba Legal, underscored the need for proper investment in maritime sector to boost economic growth.
We're not broke. We've got 17 trillion. That is nothing for a national budget. If you look at the current National Development Plan, the maritime sector is completely omitted. If Apapa Port were efficient, it would generate 20 billion a day, equal to 7.3 trillion a year. That wipes out the so-called deficit.